Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Penapple and today I'm doing a steampunk fantasy spa speed build. So if you're interested in this build, you can download it off of the Sims 4 gallery. My origin ID is penappleYT. So I built this for SimLink's 15K competition, and for that the rules were you weren't allowed to change this foundation, which you can find on the gallery under hashtag SimsLink15K. I think, yeah. And so you weren't allowed to change the foundation at all. And you had to use those 3 gnomes that are kind of like sitting in the back corner over there. And then also that window. And so I also just wanted to mention that this was definitely inspired by Devin Bumpkin's recent steampunk, build. Like his is like a manor, this is like a spa, and they kind of have different steampunk feels. I think his is a lot more hardcore than mine, but they're on the same lot, so I just wanted to throw that out there. So I spent like over 6 hours on this lot. I spent a long time. And then it also costs about 170,000 simoleons, but that doesn't really matter because it's a community lot. And so you don't actually have to use your own Sims money to pay for it, which I always love doing. I almost feel like it's cheating sometimes to like put certain items on community lots and just be like, oh, it's how fortunate that this is here. But yeah, so with this build, what I really wanted to do was transform the foundation without changing it. So what I mean by that is I wanted to subtract from it on the bottom, so I wanted to have a lot of empty space, and I used that one space for that little sort of greenhouse thing. And then on the upper levels, I wanted to then add to, like, I wasn't actually adding to the foundation, but I was adding back in things in different locations. Just because I figured it's pretty, I just figured it might be more interesting if I did it that way instead of just plain straight up using the foundation. And so I really love how this build turned out. I'm like so in love with this build. Like, it's a little bit insane. It was also definitely kind of inspired by Howl's Moving Castle. Especially, I feel like that has more of that sort of steampunk vibe, just from that. And then also, I wanted to do, it's kind of like a bathhouse. So I just called it a spa because that was kind of easier. But I definitely think of it as more of a bathhouse, sort of from like Spirited Away. So I feel like it's kind of like this big mishmash of steampunk and Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. And so how that sort of came up was I was thinking, what do I want to do, you know? And I was kind of like, well, I don't really want to make a house. I want to make something other than a house because I feel like everyone's going to do a house. Oh, and by the way, this competition is definitely still open by the time I post this. The competition ends on Wednesday, the 7th of September 2016, and I'm planning on posting this on the 6th, so you definitely still have time to, you know, submit something. I'd love to see what you guys come up with too. But yeah, so how I was inspired to do this sort of build was one of the gnomes is the alien gnome, and it kind of reminded me of the radish spirit from Spirited Away. And so that got me thinking kind of like a bathhouse, and I was like, well, I could do that with a spa. And then I also didn't just want it to, like, I can obviously recreate the bathhouse because I was restricted to a certain shape. So instead I kind of went like crazy. But this is probably one of my most favorite builds I've ever done. I am so proud of it. And like I said, it took a really long time. Like, it took over 6 hours. And the only way I could fit this in to the 30, like, I think it's under 35 minutes that it is I had to cut out a lot of stuff. Mostly just coloring and a lot of stuff where I waffled back and forth whether or not I wanted something a certain way. And then I also didn't record some aspects of it. And there were a couple things I wish I had recorded, but I don't know. I'd rather just present this to you in one video because I've been doing a lot of multiple videos lately. So I'm really proud that I managed to cut it down as far as I did, and I think it still really shows off the build. But yeah, here I am trying to figure out this sort of half octagonal section. Oh my gosh, I had no idea what I was doing here. At first I thought it would just be a cutout sort of balcony, but then I had so much trouble with like the roofing, and so then I started, you know, making this sort of extra balcony thing. I was like, oh, maybe I just won't do any roofing. And so I saw that and I was like, well, it kind of looks like a cage. That's sort of steampunky. Maybe I should make it look like a cage. And then I'll add a pool at the bottom or something like that. So I really went through a lot with this thing. I wouldn't doubt it if I spent a total of an hour mostly on this part, maybe a bit less, but I spent a long time, and I ended up just having a pool, and then having the rest of it, the shape continue just suspended above the pool. And I thought that looked really cool. I thought it looked really sort of defying gravity sort of thing, and so I can't say that without thinking the song. I recently saw the new Star Trek movie, and at the very end, I'm not going to ruin anything, but at the very end, they're basically floating at one point, and the only thing I could think of was defying gravity from Wicked. Like, it was pretty great. But yeah, so here, another fun part, which I don't know if everyone will get, but I get it. So I added those pieces there, and they're supposed to be stairs. And so that is a reference to Spirited Away when she has to go down the staircase to get to the Boilerman's room. And she practically dies and ends up like going so fast. I think that's like my dad's favorite scene from Spirited Away. But yeah, so that's kind of what that is. And I really liked it. So I don't know if everyone will get it, but I just kind of wanted to keep it. I was also really excited to use those pieces that I just put from the Get to Work. And usually they're wall decor items, but this time I decided to use them as pillars because the pillars get kind of, they get weird when they're not on a foundation. So you have to raise them up, and I find that a lot of the time when you download the lot, the pillars drop back down, and so you have this gap between the pillar and what it's supposed to be holding up. And like, I was so excited. Somehow the greenhouse portion of this worked perfectly with the pillars. Like, the top of the greenhouse just fell exactly at the bottom floor level for one of the pillars, and then it just worked. I loved it. I was so excited. I also definitely wanted to go with a sort of terracotta theme because I've never used that archway. And so I really wanted to add it in because I feel like it's a really fun structural element that I personally haven't used all that much before. And so I thought that really helped point me in a direction, because when I was doing this build, like, there's so many directions you can go, and so I kind of tried to go with the sort of European vibe influence, which kind of brings in the Howl's Moving Castle. Like, when my boyfriend was looking at the thumbnail for this, he saw the house in the background and he was like, it kind of looks like the town in Howl's Moving Castle. And so I was like, yeah, you're right, it does. I really like it. But yeah, I also put in multiple chimneys, which is really cute. And here I think I am starting to put in, a whole bunch of those sort of industrial elements that we got in the Sims 4 Get to Work expansion pack, which I think really makes this build. I think that really, like, I think it would be okay without it, but those I think really, like, establish that sort of steampunk vibe. And so here I'm trying to use the windows. I didn't want to just use them in one place, and I really wanted to integrate them, which is partially, like, I was thinking of going modern, but those windows don't feel modern at all to me. So I was like, well, if you're not going modern, you should go hardcore, like, old school. Like, don't even try and do modern at all. And so that kind of also led me to steampunk. There's just so many things. Oh my gosh, I could probably talk about this build for ages, which is good because I have another 25 minutes to talk about it. But yeah, and here I also really love the balcony. I did the opposite shape from that top balcony there, and then I subtracted a little bit in it, and I just love the sort of juxtaposition of shapes there. I think that's really cool, and I end up putting a whole bunch of balconies, or not balconies, I've ended up putting a whole bunch of fireplaces, sort of outdoor fireplaces, and so I thought that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, so I think this is what the exterior structure is going to look like for the rest of it, and I ended up cutting out the part where I colored everything, and that saved me a lot of time. And so I am glad that I cut that out, just because it takes so long, and I personally at least find it boring myself when I'm watching my speed builds and I just see me trying a whole bunch of different colors. I'm just like, get to it, get to the point. But yeah. So in the intro, I said that I would come back and explain what the gnomes, how they fit into this build, because right now, if you're kind of looking at the build, you're like, gnomes? Really? And so the gnomes, they're the patrons, and I ended up adding more gnomes than were required, and I sized a few of them up, and I put them using the spa equipment, and surprisingly, all of the spa equipment was usable. Like, the Sims just sat on top of the gnomes and went about their lives. Like, there's really awkward. Like, there's one gnome that I put in the bathtub, and he's the sort of little naked gnome that has the sort of censored out box that the Sims get. And he's in the bathtub, and my Sim just crawled right in with him. I was just like, really? And then my favorite thing was that the hot tub was usable with that sort of giant alien gnome that I imagine as being the radish spirit, and that just like killed me with joy. I was so happy. I could not believe it. Like, your Sim can actually like get in the hot tub with the radish spirit. Like, are you kidding me? That's great. I don't know how, I only tested it with one Sim though, so I don't know if all the Sims can, but one Sim can definitely fit in the hot tub, which I was just like, yes. But yeah, so the gnomes ended up just being the patrons, and I really liked that just because I didn't just want to use them as a decor piece. I wanted to really make them essential in a way to the build. You know, they're the patrons of the spa, of the bathhouse, so they fit, and I really, really liked that. I felt really inspired for this build, and I'm so in love with it, and I just love how it all came together, and at least to me, it's cohesive. I don't know if it's exactly cohesive to everyone else, but like, I love it, and I hope I win. I mean, that's not why everyone enters a competition, but I feel like that's always a thought in everybody's mind is, oh, well, you know, I hope I win. I mean, I'm not going to be heartbroken if I don't, but I would like to win. It's not like you guys can vote for me or anything, so don't worry about that. I mean, you could download it off of the gallery, and that might boost me up a bit, just in attention-wise, but I don't think it really matters. But so if you like the build, feel free to download it, but you definitely don't have to. But yeah, this build, it just gets me. I'm actually a little bit worried that I've hit my prime. I know I haven't. I mean, I know I'll make awesome stuff in the future, but this is just like so cool. Oh gosh, it gets me. It really gets me. But now I am sort of laying out all the different sort of spa stuff. And so I wanted to make sure that I had those sort of massage, hand and foot table or chairs, and then also massage tables, and then I have the sauna, and then the hot tub isn't a spa item, but I thought that fit. And also I have a couple bathtubs. Oh, sorry, I knocked something over. I have a couple bathtubs, and so those aren't necessarily a spa item, but Sims can take sort of soaks in them. And so I figured that would be nice to have. Your Sim can take a fancy, expensive soak, and then they can leave and don't have to wash the tub. But yeah, I think it's hard to decide what my favorite space in this. I end up really liking the sort of lounge area on the top floor with the fireplace, and I showed that in the intro. And then I think my second favorite one is the greenhouse. I think that looked really cool. I think it'd be a great place. I've been to, I've been to one spa before and then a spa slash hair styling place. And so I just kind of, the hairstyling place was my mom's. And so sometimes we'd also do the spa thing. And so I was just kind of drawing back from that experience. And they had a lot of places to just kind of sit and chill before your appointment. And then like the, one of the sort of mani-pedi room had these huge windows and they overlook a sort of like mini pond fountain thing. And so I kind of, that was the inspiration for that room down below. Plus I didn't want to put a massage table in it because I don't know about everybody else, but I wouldn't want to get a massage in front of the whole world. Yeah, no. So yeah. And actually my least favorite rooms, I don't know if they're my least favorite, but I didn't even take pictures of them because it was pretty much pointless, is these two rooms, is the changing rooms. Just because they're so angular, and so I think they look good in gameplay. And they look good from a top-down angle, but when you're trying to take a screenshot, it was just no-go. So I just kind of gave up and I was like, I already have 14 screenshots anyways, so we're good. I was gonna say something. What was I gonna say? Oh no, I forgot. Shoot. Guess I'll just keep talking. But like I said, I didn't extensively test this, but I did test out a lot of the features just to make sure they're workable. And so I think almost everything is. Like the only thing that comes to mind is there are a couple of the pools outside that are more decorative than they are for actual swimming. So yeah, but everyone seems usable. I mean, I guess that's true. Now I'm thinking, I'm like all philosophical. Everybody is usable. But yeah, so I think everything's usable, and there's also a room that's sort of, I imagine as being a storage room slash break room, and that's the only room that would lead to the sort of fake spiral staircase, just because I figured that would be more of an employee thing. I mean, I don't know why you'd be going up that staircase, but that was kind of my imagination with that. You know, I like having the hot tub up here, but I think it does look kind of weird inside a room. I think it makes more sense when you're trying to imagine it as like a giant tub from Spirited Away, but in and of itself, the hot tub there is a little bit odd. But I thought it fit there well enough. And so here I think I'm starting to work on this sort of decor area for this greenhouse sort of thing. And this was kind of hard to furnish just because I couldn't really see what I was doing, which means that you guys can't really see what I'm doing because I'm just trying to work. I just realized that I could have taken the greenhouse off and then put it back in there. I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but that would have been so much easier. Now I'm just like kicking myself a little bit because I like spent a while just being like, oh, I can't see anything. But yeah, each room is pretty unique. I think the only two rooms that are pretty much the same are the two sort of bathtub rooms. But yeah, so every room has its own different feel and different levels of sort of privacy too, and different views. And this location, like the reason why I picked it, I haven't ever built on it before because it has this giant like clock like thing in front of it. And so when you go to like upload the image to the gallery in the build, it's right in the middle of the build. But I built this tall enough so it doesn't matter as much. And, you know, I hadn't even thought of doing it on this lot until, you know, I saw Devin Bumpkins and it just fit. And so the steampunk sort of build sort of fit here, and I was like, yeah, let's go with it. And so the views are gorgeous from this spot. And I really, 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 I could say really a whole bunch more times, but I truly wish that The Sims would make it so that clock tower thing didn't show up in the gallery screenshot, because that's just obnoxious. Like, that is truly obnoxious. Yeah. But anyways, how are you guys doing? I am currently running on definitely less than 4 hours of sleep. I don't even know what happened. Like, I went to bed at 1, which I don't like doing. I try to get to bed at like 12 at the latest. I usually manage to hit like 11:30, 12, 12:30, but once it gets to be like 1, I'm just like, you're up too late. And so I got to bed at 1 and I just couldn't sleep. Like, I'm usually a stomach sleeper, which I know is really bad for me, and so I am kind of sort of half-heartedly trying to train myself to sleep on my back instead. And so I just was so uncomfortable, like my neck wasn't in the right position. And then I went from like boiling hot under the covers to freezing cold outside of the covers. And then at one point I was both. I was both freezing cold under the covers and out of the covers, and I was hot under the covers and out of the covers, and it was just crazy. And so finally at 5:30 I just gave up. Like, I had a panic attack in the middle of the night, and I didn't want to have another one, so I just gave up. I just woke up. I was like, okay, I'm up. I can't remember the last time I've done that. I usually can convince myself to fall back to sleep, but this time was just like, no. Like, I've had this happen to me, like, doesn't happen to me a lot. I don't have insomnia, but sometimes it does, and when it does, it can be really bad. And like, usually I can just cry for a bit because I'm so upset that I can't get to sleep, and then I fall asleep, but I cried and it didn't work, so I just woke up. So I'm running on like such little sleep, but I think you can't really tell just because I'm so psyched for this build. Like, I am crazy for this build, like, I'm sure you can tell. I really like doing spas. I haven't done a spa since I made one called the Stacked Stone, and I did that before I made my YouTube channel, and I loved that thing. I tried to make it look like the Stacked Stone sort of little statue we got with the spa day thing, and so I love that build so much. And so I just like building spas. There's something about it. They take a long time though. Maybe next time I do one, I should go for like a sort of mom and pop sort of little spa. That could be nice. That could be a little bit more manageable, and I wouldn't have to like cut out like hours of footage. But yeah, here is that seating area that for some reason I just really, really liked. The only thing with it though is there are some sort of pipe things on the roof. And so if you are in sort of camera mode and you have it so there are multiple floors showing above the floor that you're in, if that makes any sense, they show. But if you don't have any floors showing up above, then it doesn't. So it's kind of weird that way. But I just kind of went with it because I didn't know what else to do. And it doesn't show up in, I think, most normal gameplay. Like, I forget, maybe it was Sims VIP, but somebody took a poll of a lot of people and asked what camera mode they like to use when playing, and the majority of them said cutaway versus all the walls up or all the walls down. But yeah, here is where I started to put some fireplaces outside, and I think was inspired from Hattie Sims build for the Deligracy competition. That was a while ago, but I remember that she put fireplaces outside, and I just thought that was really creative in a way, and so I kind of wanted to do that too. So yeah, Hattie Sims or I guess Hatsy now, she's doing a big collab, and I really hope I get to be a part of it. I'm so excited. But yeah, like, I also entered for the Deligracy build, but I noticed that a lot of the houses that won were like really fantastical, like really like out there and really creative, whereas I did a house and it was nice. It was a nice house. I liked it. It's one of my more popular builds on the gallery, but it didn't win. I mean, it didn't even come close to winning because it wasn't as interesting, and so that's part of why I went this sort of fantastical route, just because I'm kind of hoping that it'll really be eye-catching and interesting. But yeah, so I'm super psyched for that. Like, when I found out about this competition and found out that I still had like a week left to do it, I got so excited. And so there was one night where I couldn't sleep. I had trouble getting to sleep because I was so excited. I had so many ideas going on. But yeah, so this build is just like, this is like my dream baby. I don't know. It's like, I took all of my imagination and just like chucked it. And so I've been having trouble with some of my other builds now, just because I feel like they're not as good. But in reality, I don't think they're going to be as good because this is intense. But yeah, now I am starting to get into more of the exterior, and I love that pipe there. I thought it looked like it was somehow feeding into that little swimming pool area, which that one is usable. And so I kind of wanted to, again, sort of cut away from the sort of foundation shape without actually cutting away, because you're not allowed to. Oh my gosh, excuse me, I feel like I have to burp. It's like rising, it came and it went. I'm sorry about that. And so I also wanted to sort of mask the foundation shape with rocks. And then the only thing is, when I was sort of repositioning this build to get it in the right spot for when I would do the rest of the landscaping, a lot of the rocks on the edge just fell into the pool. And so I've been trying to be a lot more conscious of the effects that Move Object has when it's downloaded off of the gallery or the build is moved, because it doesn't always translate. And so I think a lot of the magic can be lost that way. And so I tried to like sort of rework it so that it wouldn't have any problems. When I moved in, I think I got it so it mostly worked. The only thing is that so those windows that you're required to use, I use them as windows, but then I thought, why not also use them as something else? Why not go for the double whammy, like above and beyond? And so I used them to make sort of planter boxes in the front, which unfortunately I didn't film, because it sort of came to me in sudden inspiration when I wasn't filming. I was doing like shading or something of the ground. And so those are good, but a couple of them will shoot up when they'll just start hovering in the air, which I've never had happen to me before. I guess it's because the lowest level that they would be is at that sort of where the foundation height is. And so I think that's why they shoot up, but those are pretty easy to move back into place, and I love them so much. And I tried a whole bunch of different things, like I put a fence there to see if maybe they'd stick to the fence, but I couldn't put something like a half wall because that would be an extension of the foundation. And so that was the only thing that I was like, poo. But yeah, this also has, this is my favorite outdoor seating area. And I think these chairs kind of remind me of the greenhouse part of the palace in Howl's Moving Castle. Also, the main roof section of this build, which you can't see right now, but I think that reminds me a lot of the Spirited Away bathhouse for some reason. I don't know, I didn't even look at reference pictures. I was just kind of going for the feel and sort of just the idea of a bathhouse for this. So yeah, it's like not like an exact thing. Like I did a Totoro build, which is really great, and I really kind of recreated the house from Totoro. So this isn't a recreation, it's just inspired by. I did like a motion with that, like a wah. I want you to imagine what that looks like. Wah. Whatever that motion looks like, that's what I did. But yeah, and so I also put a whole bunch of these little lanterns around, and I thought that really added to the sort of magical, ethereal sort of look to it, and so I really liked that. And just all of the landscaping is really intense and floral and just lush, and I just really like it. And I also, next to the swimming pool, I ended up adding a little gnome with a bath, not a bath ring, but like a flotation device. I forget what it's called when it's like donut shaped. Is that like a specific name? I don't know. I have forgotten. But yeah, so yeah. So I'm curious, which do you guys prefer? Do you prefer Howl's Moving Castle or Spirited Away? I feel like, at least in the US, Spirited Away was more popular, and I think that's partly because Spirited Away was the first Ghibli film that came out once Disney bought the rights to the release in America. And so that had a lot of publicity, and so a a lot of times when I mention something about like Totoro or Spirited Away, or not Spirited Away, but like Howl's Moving Castle or something, people will give me this really blank expression, and I'm like, come on, this is actually pretty popular culture. Like, this isn't just like a nerd thing. I mean, it kind of is, but it's pretty popular. Like, it's a pretty big deal. And so then I'll be like, oh, you know, Spirited Away. And then some people will be like, oh, and then other people are just like, nope, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm just like, you poor, poor soul. But yeah, I mean, that's not to say that everybody has to like Ghibli films, but I do find it kind of surprising that it's not as well known, just because it's like, in my opinion, it's pretty big. Like, it's a big market. It's like, it's big. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just me liking it so much and being offended if somebody doesn't know what it is, or if it's just not as well known as I thought it was. But my hedgehog's name is Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle, and so Howl's Moving Castle is my favorite. Between Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, I'd pick that one. Most of my family, well, my mom and dad like Spirited Away the best, and then I think my brother likes Porco Rosso the best, at least last time I checked. Like, we split up the Ghibli DVDs, and he got Porco Rosso, and I got a couple of the other ones, but then I got the most awesome birthday present, or maybe Christmas present? Birthday present, not this year, but last year, and my boyfriend found me a CD set, or a DVD set that had all of the Ghibli films up to Arrietty. That's how you pronounce that. Which that one is the sort of borrowers themed one. But here I am starting to put in the gnomes, and that is the gnome I was talking about, where if you're not careful, your sim will just climb right into the tub with them. But like, here's another one of the gnomes you're required to use, and so I just kind of imagine him as getting like a pedicure. And then here is the radish spirit. Totally love him. I actually slowed down footage just so you could really get a good shot of him. But yeah, the speed build is coming up to a close. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave me a like, a comment, or subscribe. You can download it off of the gallery. My origin ID is penappleYT. So the screenshots are coming up soon, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!